Good afternoon. Welcome. This is Placertopia Live, and this is Season 1, Episode 4. I'm Paul Godwin, your host, and we are here today, October 18th, at the Green Room Social Club in Placerville, California, where it is a gorgeous autumn day here in the Gold Country of California, where we are extremely blessed to have safety for our families at a time when there is so much trouble in the world. We're very lucky to have a safe place to live, raise our children, and make art. We have a terrific show for you today. Before we do that, I'll let you know what's going on. I want to let you know that we are supported in part by a grant from the Placerville Cannabis Community Benefit Committee. And we acknowledge that Placerville sits on the traditional home of the Miwok and Nisenan people, is one step to ensuring we show respect to the indigenous community who have lived on these lands for many centuries. So, to today's show. We have some really interesting artists from the community. Today we have Philip Morganelli, who's going to tell us about his new hand-cut jigsaw puzzle show opening at the Winesmith this weekend. We have Mike Roberts from Save the Graves, whose yearly benefit event at Union Cemetery is this Saturday. So it's really good timing to have Mike on the show and talk about cemetery preservation and the way they're using theater to... I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit of an echo here, Doug, and it's a little crazy making, so sorry about that, folks. If I'm hesitant, that's why. Good, and we also have Darren Coelho Spring, who's co-owner of the Bookery here in town. He's going to give us some nice Halloween spooky reads, and he's also going to treat us to Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven with our musical guest today, Jacob Mingle of Haifa and Flannel, and Jacob's going to accompany Darren, and he's also going to perform some of his own music today. But first, how about our featured guest? I want to welcome Terry Lamonchek of Arts and Culture El Dorado. She's the executive director and a champion of all things artistic in our region. Please welcome Terry Lamonchek. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
So let's just break the ice before we get into the meat of our discussion. Let us know what's going on at your new Switchboard Gallery. I think you have an exciting show opening this week.
We do. And I have a question for you, Paul.
Yeah.
Do you know why we call it Switchboard Gallery?
I do not. You always have the best riddles.
The reason it's called Switchboard Gallery is that we are in the old home of the Pacific Telephone Company, 1936. And, of course, they had the old switchboards there, so hence the name of our gallery, Switchboard Gallery. And also has a lot of energy, switchboard.
That's what I thought. I thought you just named it because it was, an appropriately exciting name.
The old telephone company building.
So while we're on your clever namings of things, tell us about your quarterly, I think, magazine and how it got named.
Oh, good. I'm glad you... Do you know the answer?
I secretly do, but I want our listeners to have to guess.
Okay, very good. So the name of our quarterly publication is Arts 99. It's not a year. It's not the price. It represents the two major transportation corridors in El Dorado County, Highway 50 and Highway 49. 49 plus 50. You can do the math.
Wait, 49 times 50.
No,
I can't
plus.
do the math. Oh, 49 plus 50. Arts 99.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So cool.
As the arts agency for the county, we are a nonprofit. We're not a government entity, but it's our job to allow the arts to unify the county and create connectivity. And so in as many ways as we can think of, we try to represent that connection, that connectivity. We're spread out. We are spread out by geography, by the economy, by, swaths of forest and farmland. And but the arts are such a great way to connect people and communities, and that's our job.
How great. This is going to be a beautiful segue to the main reason I had you on right now. And I think then we'll circle back to your local show after, because you've just made the greatest segue. So
I'm known for my great segues,
are you?
by
Okay,
the way.
awesome.
Yes.
I'm going to have you on again. You just won another visit. So, but I want to talk with you about the Placerville Arts Plan, and so the public art plan. And so what I know about it is because I've already attended the large public meeting that you held, where this just makes me freak out as an arts presenter myself. The idea of just inviting everyone under the universe and saying, what kind of art do you want to do in our town? It's like terrifying, But I attended the meeting, and people were actually really well behaved. And you had brought in some really expert consultants to help form the plan. So I've said already enough. Tell us all about the public art plan.
Okay. So it's a partnership between our organization, Arts and Culture El Dorado, and the city of Placerville. And the idea was hatched about, this is October, about a year and a half ago, when we, and as I'm sure you guys and your audience were aware of, some lively discussions about public art in our community. And the best way to analyze and make decisions about public art is by having a plan with guidelines and policies that have been, accepted by the local government, but also that have arisen from the opinions and wishes of the community. So, and many municipalities of all sizes have a public art plan, but Placerville did not. So I wrote to the National Endowment for the Arts and asked for a grant to support the plan, and was able to offer as our consulting team a wonderful group of women. They're based in San Jose, called Art Builds Community. Barbara Goldstein is the lead. I've worked with her on public art. I've done public art planning before, and she is, in fact, she wrote the book on public art called Public Art by the Book. And I knew that Barbara being on board would be a compelling reason for the National Endowment to fund us, and we were funded. So the city of Placerville is supporting as well. And I feel you about inviting the community and just asking people what they want. It truly can be a terrifying process. But I figured, with experienced consultants on board, it's like, you guys do it, right? But it was, as you know, Paul, you were there. It was a great turnout. And so we're off and running with the drafting of the plan.
Yeah. Just to say, one of their techniques, which seems kind of a little whiteboardy, brainstormy, whatever, but obviously that's their task, is to give out Post-its to the audience. And so this group assembled of, I would say it was better than 60 people in that room, are given Post-its, and they're just asked simply, what kind of art would you like to see? What locations in town would you like to see art? And then we all go over to the side of the room and we put them up. And it was like tremendous. There were dozens to hundreds of Post-its on the wall. And then what did they do with all those?
Well, the first thing we did was take pictures of all the Post-its and the posters to document it, and then we carefully took them down, and the consulting team analyzed all of the responses, and we have a whole list of what's on people's minds. We've convened a steering committee to have a first look at the draft. And so they are putting together what they're calling emerging themes. And you can imagine what some of them are. What's important to Placervillians? History and heritage, the natural world, hiring local artists. And, it goes on from there. And they will fold those themes into the plan. And the community will have one more chance to hear about the plan in a draft form, and then it will go to City Council for approval.
All right. So that's, I mean, jokingly, I'd say that's the easy part, because then we've got to raise the money to make things, right?
Well, part of her job, part of the consulting team's job will be to recommend funding sources for public art. And that's part of any good public art master plan is, writing the plan is easy, but then you have to do the art and you have to pay for it. So
Yeah. Great. Well, I know that Barbara and Co. have done this for some really cool communities, some of them huger than ours, like Seattle, I believe. Is that right?
Barbara was the director of public art for the city of Seattle.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
We were recently in Port Townsend, which describes itself as a Victorian arts community. And we're really pretty delighted by lots of different techniques for community building that Port Townsend uses, from public paths, public walks on all the public land between the neighborhoods and between the houses, to lots of public art and solutions that, I read this terrific book about how to build community. And one of the things they first recommend are things like the little libraries or a tool lending in your neighborhood. You just put up a particle board with tools, and then if you don't have the right monkey wrench, you outline it there, and then some other neighbor comes and brings that, and you lend tools in your neighborhood. Sending flyers around to your neighbors, asking what their skill set is and what they need. So some people might be good at hooking up your internet, and some people might need a ride to the grocery store. So these are simple things we can do to really build community. How do you see art functioning in that way?
Well, specifically public art. I mean, we had a lot of conversations initially about, what is public art for? It sounds like kind of an obvious question, but it's for both local residents and visitors. It can spark civic dialogue. It can illustrate the history of the place. It can be fun, surprising. One of my favorite things about public art is the element of discovery. You walk around the corner and you see, that the giant silver bean in Chicago that reflects passersby. It can, take you out of the moment and just take your mind somewhere else to think about something new and different. But I would argue that even just the planning process is so important for our community. I had people say, quoting verbatim, Terry, people are hungry for this type of community planning. And again, as witness how many people were there, that it's really a way for us to talk about our civic identity, who we are now, who we have been, who we want to be as a community.
Excellent. And I know there was I think in a small town, by the way, those listeners who don't know, we're between 11,000, I think we're 11,000 plus right now, community. And, there's always some hesitancy when you bring outside consultants, or the idea that there will be civic or federal money or county or state money spent. Who's this money going to go to? Who are the artists? And we have so many talented artists here locally. And I think I've heard no hesitancy from you to, of course, support local artists with this funding that we might get. But as well, not to be, fundamental about it, that it could only be local artists. And I think you mentioned this at the meeting, Conversely, just as we might welcome outside artists if it's appropriate, if let's just throw it out that we created the desire for a gold mining sculpture of some kind. And it turned out there was this amazing artist from North Dakota or Latvia who was the person. And then that's the right person. But you also pointed out, I thought rather aptly, that just as we would welcome that, our own local artists could be invited into other communities so long as we treat everything with that spirit.
Exactly. And having a visiting artist can mean more than just having them do the work. There could be a residency. There could be classes and workshops. It doesn't have to be it can be a give and take relationship with the artist. Public art is always hard. It's always difficult. And that's because it is virtually impossible for people to take their own aesthetic opinions out of any decision-making process. And I mean, we're not supposed to. That's what makes us human, right? Is just our take on the world. But for people whose job it is, like City Council or the Planning Commission, to make decisions about public art, going back to what I said earlier, having guidelines and a policy to point to will help that process be more put everyone on a level playing field. And the fact that, the way that we've publicized this public art plan is let your voice be heard. So come to the meetings, say what it is, for well or ill, good, bad, or indifferent, and then at least your voice has been heard.
Yeah.
And you've been part of the planning process.
Yeah. I have a question, and it wasn't in my prep questions, but it just comes to mind, which is kind of art with a small a and art with a capital A. Because I think, what that sort of means is that art with a capital A to me is kind of art that challenges you. It might not be, the beautiful landscape mural, or it might not be an obvious thing. It might challenge you. It might make you a little bit uncomfortable. Talk about that for a second.
Well, first of all, remember that public art can take many forms. It can be performance. It can be sound art, as opposed to music, but I mean sound installations. And it can be, it goes back to what I said before about the element of surprise and discovery and taking you out of your kind of day-to-day thoughts. I think there's room for art that is welcoming and familiar, that sort of reminds you about why we all love living here. And to the other end of the spectrum, with artwork that just makes you stop and go, I never thought about that color of green before. It could be as simple as that.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So we only have a couple minutes left. And I guess I want to just get a little quick read on your role in the community. I mean, I think we're learning it all already through how you're talking about the public art plan. But as executive director for Arts and Culture El Dorado, you've done this role in much larger communities. Any particular thoughts about the challenges and delights of being in a community our size?
I would start with the delights. The opportunities for art and art making in El Dorado County are almost unlimited. That's what I realized when I came to this job 8 years ago. And, I still wake up every day being excited about what's possible. And, the challenges there are challenges everywhere. And, we get to see how this public art plan unfolds. I think that will tell us a lot about the challenges, real or perceived. But every day we make inroads into bringing our community together through the arts. Don't forget, I want to plug our show on Thursday.
Let's go. Tell us about the show.
Tomorrow, Thursday, from 6 to 8 p.m., we are partnering with Sugar Skull Art Walk, presenting their Community Ofrenda project, There are beautiful Day of the Dead altars in Switchboard Gallery, also Center Street Gallery. Another partner is the Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians. Anyway, our Switchboard Gallery is currently full of these breathtaking ofrendas, altars to loved ones, and they're just staggeringly beautiful. Everyone should come. Tomorrow, 6 to 8 p.m., Switchboard Gallery on Main Street.
Address?
525.
525 Main Street. Terry Lamonchek, Executive Director, Arts and Culture, El Dorado. Thank you for joining us on Placertopia Live.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so we've got our musical guest coming up. Now, we're a pretty new show, so it feels a little funny to say no stranger to Placertopia Live. But the truth is, this guest has been on the show before. Great community builder, musician in town, and general manager, did I get that right? Of the Placerville Food Co-op, a terrific musician. Please welcome Jacob Mingle.
The wind blows and the howling wolf. It's too cold to warm these bones. My heart, my apple seed heart grows red with the blood from home. And now the stars direct my moonlit spirit, and in the light the foxglove glows. So and how, and oh and how, and how, and how, and how. Now the sun, with its beams of love, have undone, unfroze, and forgave my heart, oh my frozen heart. With my intuition, I can freely say I love I won't come talking, 'cause my tongue is tied. I won't come walking, 'cause my legs can't carry the weight of the world. But I'll bring along with me new blood. But the weight of blood, it's a heavy load. My mind is strong, but my back is broke. Yet I'll bring along with me new blood. Dig down deep in my backyard, clear the rats out of the attic. What's that noise? It's just the wind. What's that noise? All souls are meant to begin again. Thank you.
What's that noise? All souls are meant to begin again. Reminds me of Totoro a little.
Love that movie.
Yeah, the ghost dust bunnies in the attic or lost souls? What do we got?
Are you asking me about my
I am
lyrics?
asking about your lyrics. I've never done this before on the program.
Yeah, I think I oftentimes try to like tell a story through like spiritual, metaphorical means, and sometimes it just comes to me and I don't even know what it means, and I'm just like the vessel and I try to figure it out. But I do think in that song there is, it actually started off with the concept of my son being born. So I wrote it while Elisa, my wife, was pregnant, and just kind of this whole like, you know, they don't come talking, they don't come walking, but they like they'll carry a burden and the weight of this world. But what they do bring is this new blood and this, you know, chance for new life to, you know, be a revelation of sorts, you know. So that's where the concept began. And then I think it's also the metaphor of like digging down deep in your backyard is kind of looking inward and in who you are in your past and how you can be the best for like your child that's coming into this world. And then the rats in the attic is, you know, the brain, make sure you're clear of mind and thought. And so yeah. Hope
Thank you. What's the name of that song?
The Weight of Blood.
All right. And for those of you that don't know, Jacob performs with a few different ensembles, and the one that these kind of songs I've heard more often with is Flannel, I think.
Yeah.
Have you done that one with Flannel yet? Or
Yeah, and
Yeah.
actually, it was a song I originally wrote for a band with Joey Beatty and Darren Spring and Scott Soa. We had a dad rock band, and we all wrote songs. Then we'd switch instruments, and so that was my contribution to that project. And then I've just kind of carried it into other projects.
Yeah, great. Jacob will be back in the second half of the program. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right. Welcome back. Sitting with me now, Mike Roberts of Save the Graves. And I think I'll just read from your project description. Save the Graves is dedicated to the restoration and protection of El Dorado County cemeteries and the history contained therein. We celebrate the cemeteries and their history with projects, activities, and events which contribute to our mission. So, this is the big week for you. Tell us what's, why don't we start with what can we expect if we get over to Union Cemetery on B Street this Saturday?
Thanks, Darren.
Jacob.
Sorry. This weekend on Saturday, Save the Graves, 10 o'clock to 4 p.m. We have, it's a theater event, actually. We have theatrical portrayals of notable characters from El Dorado County history. This year's theme is J&J Blair, a family affair. J&J Blair was an early lumber company. The Blairs were 4 Scottish immigrant brothers who came over early on and kind of launched the timber industry in El Dorado County and were connected to pretty much everything that happened in the 1800s. And they're not really well known. One of the things that happens in a place like this is that everything after the gold discovery is kind of swept under the rug. And it turns out there's a lot of really interesting history here that happened post-gold rush, lots of it. And a lot of the people that were involved in that, those families, they're still around. And that's one of the things that we found when we started digging into the Blair family history. There are currently 50 plus Blairs coming into Placerville from out of town for this event. 4 of them are actually performing in the event, depicting their ancestors, and a lot of them hadn't met each other. There's 2 or 3 out rehearsing in the cemetery right now.
Let me interrupt for a second, because I've attended 2 of your events 2 previous years, and it sounds to me like this is definitely the first time descendants are portraying their ancestors. This is pretty cool. How did that happen?
It happened serendipity, is that the word? There's a researcher, a guy named Sean Manwaring, and he and his partner Jacob have been in this community for about 4 years. They bought one of the original Blair houses at the base of Cedar Ravine. It's also known as the Judge Thompson House. And it had been chopped up into lawyers' offices and stuff. And they've been restoring it back to its original condition for the last couple of years. And Sean's just a killer researcher. So he started researching the history of this house and its family. And he's one of those people that brings people together. And so he connected with a few matriarch types that didn't even live around here, but knew the family history better than anybody, it turns out. And they connected with their grandchildren and their cousins and their nephews, and pressure was exerted. And now all of a sudden, all these folks are involved in this thing one way or the other. There's a whole slew of them staying at the Carey house already. And they're really excited. The local family members, many of them were completely disconnected from their heritage, and they are now reconnected. And it's really cool the way it's worked out. That wasn't something we anticipated. For what it's worth, we're going to continue this tradition. I mean, it was sort of easy because Sean arrived with all this research. Bang, put it on the table and said, here, you don't have to worry about figuring out what's in the scripts. It's all right here. And so we said, thank you very much. Next year, it's the same thing for Judge Marcus Bennett. He had the big house that eventually became the Sequoia Restaurant and is now the Wedgwood Wedding Place. Same deal. Big family, lots of kids, and you know, of course, what happens, and this is one of Sean's picadillos, is the women, you know, none of them kept their name, so they lose their name, and the history kind of drops the women. And so one of the things he's adamant about is digging up what the women in the family were like, especially the ones that didn't end up with the last name of Blair or Bennett in the case of next year.
All right.
So
now, for those of you that have never attended a Save the Graves, you know, what exactly are people going to see? What is it? How does it work?
There's 4 stages. The performances last typically about 12 to 15 minutes. They'll go off at the hour and the half hour. And anticipate a pretty big turnout, so I suggest getting there early. I'm nervous about staging an event like this in a cemetery that's already completely packed with graves is quite honestly brutal. Finding a place to put the chairs, trying to keep the chairs upright and keep all the people upright has been an ongoing challenge with this thing. But we've modified things, centralized it, formalized the stage areas. So get your butt in a seat prior to the hour or the half hour and soak it all up. These actors, the stage managers, the ushers, the director have been working really, really hard and to put this thing together. So it's a total of 8 performances on 4 stages. So performance 1 is like at 10 o'clock, performance 2 is at 10:30, and then on the same stage, performance 1 goes again at 11 o'clock. So we tried to keep it simple. It's not, but there's a total of 8 performances. Some are just one person reflecting on their life, and these are costumed, you know, rehearsed. Everything's scripted. This is not just people wearing a costume and making stuff up. It's all scripted and vetted, and a total of 11 characters, so some of the performances are a dialogue. In some cases, they're reading from Grandma's diary. There's all variations. But it's all history, and it's all interesting, and it's all connected.
Yeah, it's. I really encourage listeners to attend. It's super compelling. The first year, I believe, I went, we saw, is it Mary Gooch?
Nancy Gooch.
Nancy Gooch, who was, and you'll probably have to correct me as I go. As I understood, an African-American freed slave that had settled in Coloma and actually ended up owning a good chunk of property across from the gold discovery site in Coloma. And her descendants are in Sacramento currently. I think there was a big national news story about one of her descendants. Yep. But the actor that portrayed her, you know, it was so compelling. I really felt like I was sitting there with the character.
Not a dry eye in the house. Yeah, she finally bought her son out of slavery and got him out here, and her husband had died 2 months earlier. It was tragic and incredibly powerful. So we hope to achieve that level of authenticity and impact again.
Okay, so let's move over to why. It seems self-explanatory, but really, why do we care? Why do our cemeteries need help? Why does an organization like yours have to exist?
Well, organizations like ours are not unique. Other places have similar nonprofits. I should point out that we were launched as an incubator project of Arts and Culture El Dorado. So I made a point to go out and thank Terry for that. We're now an independent 501c3, which opens up a lot more opportunities for grants and stuff. That only happened a few months ago. The reason, what happens is old cemeteries fill up, and then there's no cash flow. There's nothing to sell anymore. And that's not 100% true, because you can find niches for cremains and stuff, but the cash flow winds down. And they eventually become, for one reason or another, abandoned. And under state law, they fall under the Land Use Authority, which for most of our cemeteries is El Dorado County. They fall under their responsibility. In those places, and again, everywhere else, they've typically created special districts and created property tax in support of cemeteries, just like schools, just like parks, just like fire departments. It's a California special district. Well, El Dorado County never did that. And the possibility of passing any kind of new tax now is nil. I'm working on it, but it's futile. So therefore, it's up to volunteers and the nonprofit side to do this work. Because of what we do, the county pays more attention and does a little bit of maintenance at least. You'll notice that the word maintenance was not in our mission. It's restoration. Restoration and protection. But the secondary thing that I know we're wrapping up, the secondary thing that's really important is awareness raising. People don't even know these places exist. And I'm adamant, and I've experienced it 3 times this morning already, that we go to these places and we make connections. I got 2 volunteer iron workers out there slinging concrete right now. I just left them. And they live around here. And they built a grand cemetery entry arch last month and put it up 2 days ago over the entrance to this place. It's very, very cool. I got Blair family descendants from the other side of Tehachapi. They're rehearsing, talking to the iron workers who are slinging concrete. And other volunteers that just like helping put up the shade structures, one of which got stolen last night. So we're all working on this together. We're all building relationships. It's all about building community, the fabric of community, which is exactly what you do, and what you do, I'm pointing at a mirror, so well with things like this. So thank you. I'm just doing one little bit. You've put your umbrella a little bit wider, and it's hard enough doing my little bit, man. So I really appreciate what you do, not only as a musician, which does that in a different way. We're all swinging from the chandeliers in here during those events, but now in things like this where, honest to God, I never met Terry. She launched us, and I never got to meet the woman until 10 minutes ago. So
there you go.
There you go. It's connections.
So there's a reason to
it's
come on down to our show live. We wanted to do this live. So many podcasts can be done on Zoom and are done audio only, but we have this beautiful resource with the Green Room Social Club. Thank you for hosting us. And I just really envisioned a weekday event, a lunchtime event. Why not? There's enough of us that are flexibly employed or work in business on Main Street and can pop over. So I know this is a tremendously busy week for you, and we really appreciate you coming by and talking with us. Mike Roberts, Save the Graves.
Good to see you, Paul.
All right, Philip Morganelli, joining us from Turning Taxis. I'm really excited to have you on the show because, as you know, I am a great lover of jigsaw puzzles, and especially of wooden hand-cut jigsaw puzzles. For those of you that don't know, Philip, just a short time ago, I would say it seems like 6 months?
10 months.
10 months, began cutting from scratch jigsaw puzzles in his studio garage. And I have seen and witnessed as a guinea pig or a loner. I'm on the loner program. I get to try out the puzzles, Amir and I. And we've seen this tremendous growth curve, exponential growth curve to a level of artistry and complexity in the puzzles that has now led you to, I think, your first art show doing puzzles. Is that right?
Second art show,
Second.
but who's counting?
Who's counting?
Aside from me,
Okay,
clearly.
tell us about the work. Let's start with this. Why are you doing puzzles? What's got you excited about this?
So before we get started, I brought you a little gift.
Oh, no way.
I'm sorry to say it's not a wooden puzzle, but it's an acrylic puzzle, which is a medium that I've recently embarked upon. So that puzzle is called Scrap Heap Monster number 3 Alpha. And yeah, I kind of started the Scrap Heap series, which has nothing to do with my show this weekend. But, you know, when you cut a puzzle with an irregular border, you're left with odd bits of either wood or acrylic. And rather than just throwing them into the waste heap, I thought make little cool little abstract sculpture out of them.
Thank you for this. Really exciting. So this is not in the art. Are the acrylic puzzles in the art show this week?
So yeah, my show that's opening this weekend, the opening party is on Saturday, but the art's currently up at the Winesmith right across the street from here. So people are welcome to see it as early as tomorrow when they open for the week. But the show is called Sticks and Stones, and it's a series of 15 acrylic puzzles. And my inspiration for the show, I don't know if you're familiar with the bone music of the mid-century Soviet Union.
Somehow that one got by me.
But so essentially what was happening in the 50s and 60s in Soviet Russia was a lot of Western music and a lot of problematic national music from Russian citizens who had escaped the Soviet Union was banned by the government, yet people still wanted to listen to the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. So there was a thriving bootleg industry, but the problem was there was also a shortage of vinyl. So the way around this, coincidentally, there was a nationwide campaign to eliminate tuberculosis. So everyone was getting chest x-rays left and right. So there was a lot of x-ray sheets that were just going straight into the garbage when people had a clean diagnosis. So these bootleggers would repurpose the x-ray film and stamp records onto them. I mean, very, very flimsy records that would only last like 4 or 5 plays before they would disintegrate into horrendous fidelity.
Like the ones on the cereal boxes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, when I was trying to think of a good show for the Halloween season that would be kind of macabre, my mind immediately went to repurposing x-rays for my own purposes. So, you know, when we think about jigsaw puzzles, they're essentially broken pictures that you're trying to put back together. So what better x-rays to use than x-rays of broken bones? So yeah, I acquired a set of 15 teaching x-rays that are mass marketed on Amazon. So, you know, no HIPAA violations were incurred as far as I know. I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure I'm safe. Mounted them all to 1/4-inch acrylics that, you know, they'd be completely transparent where there was not ink on the x-ray transparency, and cut them into anywhere from 50-piece to 150-piece puzzles using a variety of cutting styles and cutting densities. And then just to give the pieces a little extra flair, I constructed a couple of light boxes that the framed puzzles can slide into to backlight them like you might expect you know, an x-ray to be backlit at a doctor's office. Or you can, you know, with the light strips, do cool, like, ravey colors like you'd not expect them to be lit at a doctor's office.
Wow. Super exciting. The Winesmith has been doing really great art shows since Scott took over a few years ago, and this sounds like it's going to be one of the coolest ones I've seen there.
And I should
and
also
yeah,
I should also mention that the opening party on Saturday night, a band from San Francisco will be playing as well, Campfire Casanovas. At least one of the members is a Placerville native.
yeah,
Should be good tunes.
Yeah.
Haven't actually heard them, and I like going to a show just like I like going to a movie, like kind of surprised if you don't really know anything beforehand. So all I can say for certain is that a theremin will be involved, which is pretty exciting for Halloween as well.
it should work well with the art. So let's talk for another minute about your puzzles. As I mentioned, it was only 10 months ago Philip started making these in his garage, and to my opinion, because I'm actually pretty discerning about the puzzles that I choose. Now, about 20 years ago, Amira, as a gift, enlisted me in a club from Maine, Elms Puzzles, and they were a Netflix for wooden jigsaw puzzles. They would, when Netflix mailed things out. So they would basically mail you the jigsaw puzzle and you would rent it indefinitely until you finished it and then return it. And unfortunately, unlike Netflix, which was, $9 a month, these puzzles were priced individually and the rentals were super high. It was not infrequent to have $150 to rent one puzzle, and that was 200 pieces, etc. So I felt pretty gratified when I realized 2 blocks away from my house there was a wooden jigsaw puzzle factory going on.
And yeah, you and Amir are part of a extremely selective membership.
Really? Yeah, I feel like Netflix, either the price is going to go up or it's going to run out and I'm going to have to do it online or something. But your first puzzles, though, I'm going to poke a little fun. It seemed like the image wasn't particularly important. And I say that because the first puzzle I did of yours turned out to be like the Golden Girls, I think. And it was like, Angela Lansbury and like, I don't even know who the Golden Girls are. But there were like these kind of burnt umber and like tan, spray tan skin, and like the colors were really dull. And when I finally did the picture, I was just like, what is this? So talk about your image choices. Go ahead. Defend.
So, my very earliest puzzles were, as one does, puzzles of one's cats. But yeah, from there, in trying to kind of like just make things that I wasn't planning on selling, but just to practice my cutting styles, to practice my figural pieces. I did more pictures of my cats, obviously. Also did a lot of found materials, like whether it was product packaging or interesting ads from newspapers, kind of in the pop art aesthetic, just finding something random that speaks to you that you think might be able to be partitioned into little pieces in an interesting manner. But I also, did a series of 3 puzzles of classic TV shows that I grew up with, watching with one of my grandmothers, who I also did a lot of puzzles with growing up. And yeah, those 3, guilty as charged: The Golden Girls, Murder, She Wrote, and of course, Columbo.
Excellent. So would you say you're more interested in, the shapes of the pieces or the images or both, or where do you stand on that? Or does it change?
Definitely both. And I'll mention that I am a huge fan of collaborations with local artists. Did an amazing puzzle with Zach Pangborn, who owns Volution Gallery right down the street. Have something planned with Warren as well. So yeah, image choice is cool, and like, it's cool when it's an image that you can, if the image like evokes cutting out certain parts of the image or an irregular background.
Say about that. You mentioned figurals. Audience might not know what that is.
So yeah, a figural is a puzzle piece or multiple puzzle pieces coming together in a smaller subsection that looks like a distinct outline of like an animal or an object, often related to the image subject. But I find shape piece very interesting as well. Like, You know, when you're doing die-cut cardboard puzzles, all of the shapes for the most part look relatively the same. You know, it's squat, square, has knobs or indents. But when you're hand cutting something, particularly out of a material that can handle more delicate and exciting shapes, it's almost like every single piece of the puzzle is its own little miniature sculpture, which come together in a greater whole.
Yeah, yeah, really exciting. So where can people find your stuff? Can they purchase, I think, maybe on Etsy, or just let us know your Instagram? And then before I let you go, I know you want to do a segment on this show, which I thought was really exciting, and maybe you could interview Oren or Zach, or tell us about that segment, and we'll try to get it happening.
Yeah, so I think it's kind of interesting to me if an artist is coming on to promote their upcoming work or their current work, rather than them talking about it, to have another artist either describe the work or to describe the work in conversation with the artist. So I think it'd be cool. I mean, you're obviously a very great and talented presenter, but you know, bring a little variety up here.
Let's break it up a little bit. I like it. So,
and it gives you a little break too.
Cool. So Philip Morganelli, Turning Taxis. Where do they find you?
So I've got an Instagram, which is @turningtaxis. TUR. Well, you can look at it at the
like
show.
A taxi that turns. And really quickly, because we are so out of time, why Turning Taxis? What does that mean?
You know, I don't have time to go into it, but people can ask me at the show. But essentially, it's an allusion to a Thomas Pynchon novel.
Excellent. Thanks for coming
Obviously.
on the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for the gift. All right. Okay, we're back. Placertopia Live, episode 4. We have from the Bookery Placerville, co-owner Darren Coelho Spring.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Is this your first time on the show?
Yeah.
That's
actually,
shocking.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
It's the
shocking
fourth
because
episode?
we've had your co-owners Nancy Dunk and Heather Beatty Spring a couple of times. And so it's great to finally have you, and it's cool to have you during this Halloween season because I know how immersed you are in the world of fantasy and all things strange.
Yes.
What do you got?
Well, I had a whole bag full of a ton of books because I guess I specialize personally in the books you would read around October, November. Anything folklore, supernatural, cosmic horror, fairy tales, mythology, all that kind of stuff. And I had this whole bag, and I wanted to show you all these books, maybe just like describe them quickly. But all this graveyard talk, having Jacob here, bone music, I figured I'd just talk about Edgar Allan Poe and focus it a little bit.
All right.
Can I say one side note real quick?
Yeah.
Me and Jacob had been in a few bands before. One of the bands was the Cemeterians. Another band was the Gravediggers Social Club. We did a live score to Nosferatu, the silent film. And one time we were practicing it at the Cosmic Cafe, and a bat, right during the most epic part, a bat flies into the room and just starts flying in a circle. That was probably the only contact I've had with the other side before.
Wow.
So that was pretty amazing.
Good thing you and I have a chance to talk at the Bookery because you just triggered me on like 3 stories, which I'm not going to use your time to tell, but I might try to wedge one in before the show is over. So tell us about Edgar Allan Poe.
So yeah, I thought I would just talk a little bit about Edgar Allan Poe. It seems like there's a book or two that comes out about him and his life every year, and I try to read every one. For the last few years, I've done that. This one's about his death. And so just to keep it on topic a little bit with the cemetery, people of the 19th century were very focused on cemeteries, burials. It was very common to see a large funeral procession every day. the ornate gravestones, all the meanings. It was a very different culture. People were dying much younger. The idea of a scientist wasn't even really around yet in Poe's time. So religion and spirituality was much more ingrained in our society. But when he died, he died in very unfortunate circumstances, you could say, to say the least. He kind of was found in Baltimore, kind of raving mad, wearing other people's clothes, no shoes on. He had some sort of fit of madness. Nobody really knows what happened, but this book is kind of about the end of his life. Anyways, to make a long story short, this was in Baltimore. There were so few people at his funeral. This is Edgar Allan Poe. So few people at his funeral that the Reverend didn't even do a sermon. There's like literally a few people there. So in 2009, in Baltimore, they had his second funeral, and they hired actors, played all his contemporaries were there. There was even like authors from ages past delivered eulogies, and there was a sermon, and he was actually in a casket, a wax cadaver. Pretty neat. So it reminded me of this Saturday. So you should go check out the event this Saturday.
It's
in the same spirit.
Oh,
yeah.
because I was. Your description sounded like Placerville on Halloween in general. So and not to miss the plug that we do have a beautiful tradition of children's parade in the late afternoon, and of course the Green Room's going to host a terrific Halloween night with Jacob Mingle's noise rock, post-rock band Haifa, along with Ben Hecht and the Phantom Spires, and one other. Someone yell it out. Which? Find Yourself, the incredible local math rock, international. They have over 1 million followers internationally. Find Yourself. So this is going to be a big night here. But anyway, Halloween's a big deal. It's a big deal at the Bookery. I see you guys are already doing your own ofrenda and stocking up on candy.
Yeah.
And the windows are full of other reads.
Yeah.
So speaking of reads, is this a special? This is a special Bookery segment.
Yeah.
Darren's got something for us.
Oh yeah. Am I going to read that now? I'm going to read The Raven.
Darren is going to read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, and he's going to be accompanied by Jacob Mingle. Before we do that, is there anything else you want to tell us book-wise? That's all. I didn't want to cut you short. That's okay.
Yeah, if you're at all interested in reading any of these types of things, and even really obscure things, like I actually have a book at the Bookery on bone music. It's amazing. And the records that they would make, oftentimes the vinyl, it would be a heart or it would be a skull. And they sound terrible.
Wow.
You can listen to them on YouTube. They were very scratchy. But.
Yeah. God, we could have a whole show with you. Your knowledge, depth of knowledge regarding the strange and weird. Those of you that might not know, Darren is also a filmmaker and made a film, The Emperor of Dreams, about Clark Ashton Smith, a very celebrated fantasy writer from Auburn who was not so celebrated maybe during his lifetime. Is that so?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
like many of these types of authors, Poe did become famous because of The Raven, but he never really made any money. I mean, I think he got $9 to publish The Raven, which is like $300 in today's money.
that is sad.
Yeah, I mean, he was lucky to even find. People would call him the Raven or the Raven Man. So he got a little bit of celebrity from this poem, but
wow.
Yeah.
So Darren Coelho Spring, thank you for joining us, and you're going to come and take my chair.
Oh, okay.
So you can read The Raven by E.A. Poe with accompaniment by Jacob Mingle.
All right. So something very odd happened today. I feel like I'm in an Edgar Allan Poe story. I lost my reading glasses the day I'm supposed to read on a podcast. I can't figure out. It's a long poem. Can't tell if I should. Gosh. All right, I'll give it a go. The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of some gently rapping at my chamber door. 'Tis some visitor, I muttered, tapping at my chamber door, only this and nothing more. Ah, distinctly I remember it was the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels name Lenore, nameless here evermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, 'tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This is it and nothing more. Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. Sir, said I, or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore. But the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened the door, darkness there, nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering, fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared dream before. But the silence was unbroken, and the stillness gave no token, and the only word there spoken was the whispered word, Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word, Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber turning, all my soul within me burning, soon again I heard a tapping, something louder than before. Surely, said I, surely that is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what thereat is, and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment, and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter, when with many a flirt and flutter, in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mine of lord or lady perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas, just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiling my sad fancy into smiling, by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance I wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly, grim, and ancient raven, wandering from the nightly shore. Tell me what thy lordly name is on the night's Plutonian shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marveled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevancy bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above this chamber door, with such name as Nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on that placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther then he uttered, not a feather then he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before. On the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. Then the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by reply so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I, what it utters, its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore. till the dirges of his hope that melancholy burden bore of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiling all my sad soul into smiling, straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of bird and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy upon fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing, to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burned into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining, on the cushion's velvet lining that the lamplight gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with lamplight gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee. By these angels he has sent thee respite, respite and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff this kind nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempter sent or whether tempest tossed here ashore. Desolate, yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home by horror haunted, tell me truly, I implore, is there balm in Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, thing of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil. By that heaven that bends above us, by that God we both adore, tell this soul with sorrow laden, if, within the distant Aden, it shall clasp a sainted maiden whom the angels named Lenore, clasp a rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token, and that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy foam from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting, on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door. And his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming. And the lamplight o'er him, streaming, throws his shadow on the floor. And my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Thank you.
Thank you. Darren Coelho Spring, E.A. Poe. All right, thanks for coming on the show. And Jacob Mingle, welcome back for one more song.
Didn't want to wear another, but he was the captain and I just a sailor. I didn't know how to read the stars as they shimmered But I saw a light out in the darkness. It shone dimly and desperately away on the ocean. A light on the road, a light on the road. It was a light on the road, a light on the road. And I didn't want to wear another. But he was the captain, and I just a sailor. And I didn't know how to read the stars as they shimmer. But I saw a light out in the darkness. It shone dimly and desperately away on the ocean. A light on the road, a light on the road. It was a light on the road, a light on the road.
Thank you. Jacob Mingle. Amazing. Thank you. Cool. Good. We're just in the final stretches of the show today. We are in the segment called Hop Up, where anybody in the house who has something they want to promote can hop up on stage and tell us all about it. So do we have any hop-ups out there? Up, here comes one. Okay, young lady, take a seat and tell us your name and what you're hopping.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Paul, for welcoming me to the stage. My name is Rena Wakefield, and I am here on behalf of the Placerville Public Library. I just want to give a shout out. We are going to be doing a very special Ofrenda ceremony event at the Placerville branch. This is in partnership with Arts and Culture El Dorado, as well as the Sugar Skull Art Walk. For more information, definitely check out the Sugar Skull Art Walk website. It is just an incredible organization, and everything they're doing in the community is really powerful and beautiful. So the event at the library is going to be October 25th from 4 to 6:30. We are going to start it off with face painting, which is free to the public. Rebecca Billingsley of Rabbit Hole Studio is going to be offering Dia de los Muertos themed face painting. Lara Goulart is going to give a reading. We also have Estela Victoria Cordero and bilingual poet and writer Zayla Henriksen. She's incredible. She's going to do a bilingual piece. I am also going to do a reading, so I'm really excited about that. And the ofrenda itself is going to be very special. It's going to be constructed with a team of people. Local artist Lauren Christofferson is a part of the team, as well as Diane Gutierrez of Placerville Co-op, one of my coworkers. It's going to be adorned with pictures of authors who've passed away, artists, and there's going to be an opportunity for the public to bring a memento or a picture of an ancestor or someone special to adorn the piece as well. So it'll be something special to participate in. So
Thank you
Yes,
for coming
thank
on
you.
and telling us about it. Rena Wakefield, Placerville Public Library. Okay, hop up, pop up. I'll just keep saying that till someone else pops up. Oh, who do we got?
Popping up.
Who are you?
I'm Amira Godwin of Myrtle Tree Arts, and I would love to announce Downtown Mix. It's first Tuesdays of the month, and it is a mixer from 5:30 to 7:30 where the general public, everyone, is invited to meet local nonprofits and hear some spotlight on their work. And the one coming up on November 7th is our next first Tuesday, is going to spotlight the grantees in El Dorado County that have received funding from California Arts Council, state money, administered through City of Sacramento Office of Arts and Culture. So El Dorado County has some great art going on and has been recognized by the state. There's 5 projects, and we really want people to know about them and have those projects meet each other. There's lots of artists from Arts and Culture El Dorado, American River Conservancy and Myrtle Tree Arts, and Shingle Springs Band of Miwok, the Sugar Skulls Project, and a number of other ones, including C, the elephant. We had a guest spot here from Gavin today, which was great. And so there's a lot of art, and these folks maybe have not intermixed with each other, and people may not know that the arts is really receiving a lot of funding and recognition from the state.
Thank you, Amira Godwin, Myrtle Tree Arts. And extra incentive for coming on November 7th is it will be Taco Tuesday, which, as far as I can see, is still free, delicious tacos here at Green Room with a cash bar. So what's coming up? I'm going to tell you about our next show, November 15th, Wednesday, as usual. I love this being in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day. And we are going to focus on an upcoming music festival presented here by Myrtle Tree Arts along with Sacred Roots and American River Conservancy, and it is called Sonic Fault Lines Festival. And it is the tagline is Big Nature, Big Sound, and we're featuring international artists and local artists all around the topic of nature and sound. And so our featured artist is Saturday night. They're coming from Iceland and Czech Republic, and they're called Fjeld. And on our next program, they'll be interviewed by Zoom, hopefully. And Fjeld is performing with a film called Invisible Landscapes, and they're on tour here in the U.S. And their album, Future Landscapes, was created with field recordings of industrial human processes like geothermal plants and aquaponic farms in Iceland and Czech Republic. They recorded at 8 different sites, and then they made music from that. And as well, Dogon, which is myself with Venezuelan composer Miguel Noya, a 30-plus year project. We are working with field recording here in the American River River watershed, and we're going to be creating music and performing it based on hydrophonic recording under the water. Featured on Friday night will be Haifa and also Power Fantasy. We have a DJ with The Help, and on Sunday, Zach Dow and Dustin Koupel. Kat will be doing Sound Bath, and we'll have Hyperion Beats, a local techno artist. So Sunday will be like all small singles and duos, techno, and it's going to be a great festival. So the tickets will be on sale momentarily at Green Room, and our event on the podcast November 15th will be featuring it. And our featured guest will be Dr. Zach Dowell from Folsom Lake Community College. He's the director of the Innovation Lab, and he's quite expert in using nature and nature processes and turning them into electronics and sound and music. So that's going to be an exciting show. Good. I want to thank all our guests today: Philip Morganelli, Mike Roberts, Darren Coelho Spring, Jacob Mingle, and Terry Lamonchek. I want to thank our production staff. We had Doug Neal at the controls. Amira Godwin was our site producer, and associate producer is Rena Wakefield. We thank Jennifer Ty and Molly at the bar, everybody here at the Green Room. We want to also shout out to Russ Reyes and Kilt and Cork, who got us started and are continuing to produce events and podcasts here in the Gold Country. For everyone at Placertopia Live, I'm Paul Godwin. Thanks for joining. Crap, I get all choky uppy. What the heck happens?